darkness my eternal affair. I wish to hide myself in your guise. Shade me once again from the scorching of the light, because what was once my remedy is now my demise. How do I disappear without death? How do I weep without sound? How do I live without breath? How do I seek loyalty without betrayal? I pray and I worship beneath the light, but still I find no answer. So instead I seek you in my plight, and relinquish my soul to temptation. So forgive my trespasses, and guide me not into the glittering eyes of jealousy, or the eloquent tongue of hypocrisy, or the untainted virtue of ignorance. For I place my faith in you, because the truth is too daunting, and the light too fierce, and the idea of my exposure too daunting. I fear what will manifest itself in the light, what I will see in the wretched reflection. But only through this holy darkness, my divine intervention, will I be at peace. So I kneel and I plead on the coarse stone before you, my toxic paramour. I no longer know what is light and what is dark. I am merely reaching for something, anything, to relieve me from this feeling, to relieve me from this grasp forevermore. I think darkness, regardless of whether it is defined as malicious or as comfort, is a necessary part of every person. The essence of this phrase is that despite society labeling darkness as something villainous and evil, I think darkness is just human nature. To hide things within ourselves, whether it be a secret you take to your grave, a regret that will haunt you forever, or simply a guilty pleasure in life, there are parts of our being, our soul, and our mind that we will never share to the rest of the world. Something that we have to keep to ourselves. And this is what I would define as our internal darkness, in that it is not inherently bad or good. It is simply a part of us and who we are that can be both toxic and consoling. For example, in the poem where I regard darkness as both my divine intervention and my toxic paramour, it is a contrast between what truly defines light and dark, and how both light and dark can hurt a person in the end. Light is often referred to as truth and purity, whereas darkness is defined as lies and deception. But either can tear a person apart from within. For example, in my poem it says, I fear what will manifest itself in the light. This is an attest to the fact that the truth is not always the best choice, and in fact it could hurt the person more than a lie would. For example, children are greatly affected by what they know to be the truth and what we enlighten onto them. And whatever happens to them as a child will impact them in the future to unprecedented magnitudes. And sometimes it is necessary for the betterment of a person not to show the truth or the light, but rather to keep them in the dark, in the safety of not having to worry or completely understand the true evil or darkness of the world. And in this sense, darkness can take on several meanings, of both sanctuary and horror, which is why 4-year-olds are not told of brutal murders, and why telling the truth is not always a viable option. As people, darkness is something we cannot live without, and in fact we would go crazy if all we had was the so-called light, because a world where unjustifiable happiness is common, and the unpolished truth is consistently told, is not a stable world. Darkness, no matter how terrible or reassuring or how we choose to define it, or how we consistently reprimand those who we consider to be dark, it will always be a part of us, either as a place to escape or a place to be burdened. Without light or dark, we would not survive, because darkness and lightness, however we choose to define them, are a fundamental aspect of every person.